Marquess, we met about a year and a half or so ago, and
Yeah.
I was telling him, I said, if you go over, I'll get a hook and pull you off the stage. Could I pull this guy off the stage? No. He would drag me up here. It's such a pleasure. I'm always smile when I see Marquess because he's always smiling. He has an outstanding and wonderful testimony that was going one way, and then Christ entered his life and transformed and changed it. And he has dedicated his life to the ministry and the effort of Birthright, which he's going to speak to you about. So listen closely. Let me say that Marquess not only made the change, but he's led himself as he made the turn into experience in entrepreneurship, Rotary Club, Kiwanis clubs, on part of the council for the Tulsa World, and has done 3 articles there. He is all around the city and involved. He speaks to the Department of Health and Human Services, which is so important to hear his Christian testimony about legacy there. And so he is able to penetrate and to get into those situations, and he works with Dream Center to actually counsel. He's on the staff and the board. He's on so many boards, I'm not going to use any more time trying to name them. But Marquess is the real deal, and he has become a friend. I'm proud of him. You'll enjoy hearing from him on the organization that he has founded called Birthright, the Living Legacy.
Greetings and good day. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, Steve told me about this group about a year and a half ago, and I was really excited because one of the things that I got to take advantage of that a lot of young people today don't is to sit amongst these young people that have all the wisdom, that have all the experience, that have all of the stories. You guys, any grandparents in the house? Any grandparents? So this is the part about being a grandparent. You get to be the curator of your own family museum. So you get to pass on the family legacy, the stories of all the generations that come. So thank you to that couple that just left. They are doing the work that definitely has to be done. I'm more of the upstream version. So I work on fatherhood because we know that fathers that serve Christ will get 89% of the chances to improve for the entire family to be able to serve Christ. So we are doing the work. So Birthright Living Legacy is a fatherhood celebration and support organization. So what we do is we validate the merit that fathers bring to parenting. And so being able to do that, I guess I better turn on my clicker. So our mission is to, like I said, validate the fathers, whether they're in the home, out of the home, or if they're incarcerated. Because one of the things that people like to believe is that, a father's absence doesn't affect the household. This generation has been taught that fathers are kind of like accessories. If I get one, it's okay, but I'll just have a baby and I'll take care of it myself. And I have to ask them, I say, okay, so if you're telling me that a 2-parent home at their worst is better than a single-parent home at their best, you're on purpose going to bring a child and put them in that kind of a scenario? And they say yes. This is what our young people think about today. So our vision is to cultivate a community of fathers who are able to come together through a lot of summits, our gatherings. We have all sorts of things that we do to be able to bring fathers, grandfathers, parents all together so that way they can learn from each other. Because we know that the education, the expertise, the relationship building, and also partnering with other organizations is what is going to make the difference. I can't do all of the work myself. And Christ didn't create us as one whole body just for one person to do everything. I need some elbows, I need some eyes, I need some ears, I need some shoes, I need some feet, all of that. So if anyone is interested in helping, just know that you still have a place, you still have a voice, you still have experience, and you still have things to offer. So why we exist. 3 out of 4 suicides that happen in the world are men. Most people don't understand that Studies show that if men stopped killing themselves, it would do more for humanity than curing cancer. So if you think about that, think about how many cancer treatment centers you see. Think about how many cancer commercials you see. I mean, just think about the people that you know that possibly have cancer or have had to fight with that. But if men would stop killing themselves, it would do more for us than if that was to be cured. So that is an issue that I thought was very worth tackling. I myself was a father who was in the process of trying to do great things, and I get depressed and I get down, so who do I turn to? As they talk about, as a couple was just talking about, where's the church? Where are they helping us out at in this area? One of the biggest issues that we run into with marriage is, again, there's no fathers, there's no homes, there's no way that they see that. So what ends up happening is it leaves two of our most vulnerable populations out to dry. I had experience working in dry cleaners. And so I was working at the front counter, and I'm hanging out. Guy drives up. He's about 90 years old. Happy guy. He's walking up. He hands me a trash bag with his clothes in it. Got a pair of pants in it. And I was like, all right. Pulled it out, and there's poop all on them. The first thing I thought to myself is, where is his family? Where's his kids? Why is he still driving if he is literally not able to hold his fecal matter in? And so it started me to ask a question. I said, what has happened in this generation? Why do we not get married anymore? Why are we not connected? And so I started to think about this process, and I was like, well, every church I go to, they support one thing a lot, and that's single motherhood. They'll give them cars, they'll give them houses, they'll give them clothes, they'll give them education, they'll give them food. That's pretty much what welfare did. The church came right behind it and said, all right, so we'll give you all those same things, but it doesn't promote the values that we stand for. So what we did was we said, we're going to combat that. We're going to say, hey, we're going to help you, Dad. We're going to make sure that you can be able to be in your family's home, support them. You're definitely going to work, though. We can't just be giving you a handout. It's definitely a hand up, because we want fathers to know that they're seen, they're heard, they're valuable, but they are also responsible. So one of the things that has changed, that is really great, is that through these meetings that we have, and I'm sure you all have ran into this as city elders, it takes roughly at about 10 touch points before a man will start to trust you. I could see you here, I could see you at church, I could see you at a friend's house. All those things are just adding up for me to one time to say, you know what? Let me try it out. And so those are the things that we have to focus on, because in this generation, we don't have friends anymore. We have this thing called the internet. The internet has everything except for connectivity. It gives you this false sense that you are important. Do you guys know the one quality it takes to be a leader? Anybody know? Servanthood, fatherhood, followers. That is it. And guess what every social media platform asks you? Do you want to follow? That's it. So it's no wonder that these kids think that they're actually leaders. They don't know the difference between getting people to actually move and being responsible for what happens to them once they get there versus posting some random nonsense and then people arguing about it later. We grew up thinking Jerry Springer was great entertainment, but we didn't know that it was going to come back in this form. So one of the things that's really great about having a fatherhood group and a community that we come together is we have a mixed generation of dads that we worked with. So one of the things that we do is we get to talk about hard things like loss. So most people don't think that fathers are affected by a miscarriage. When I grew up, I'm a recovering drug dealer. We'll get into that story in a minute. But when I was a kid, I thought when you're just having aimless sex, it didn't affect anyone. I was so warped, I also thought that when a girl had a miscarriage, it was like, yes, I dodged that bullet. God saved me. Isn't that crazy? But now as a married husband, when my wife lost the first child and then lost the second, I was depleted. I was shut down. I couldn't work for a week. And I was like, man. And I remember all of these ladies that I needed to call and apologize to, because I said, that is crazy. My music, my entertainment told me that those lives didn't matter. And then I found out they did. So then we had a meeting where we had all of the dads come, and we said, we're going to talk about it, because I get the opportunity to live out loud. So I said, my wife just experienced a miscarriage last week, so we're going to talk about loss this week. We had 15 guys come just to talk about their wives, how they were affected when their wives had miscarriages. They said, I've never been able to tell this story because it's my wife's story. And I said, no, it's your story too. You need to know that that baby is connected to you just as much as it is her. And we have to stop this narrative to believe that it's just an embryo. Oh, it's just a thing. But I promise you, when the men's voices start to rise to say, hey, that affected me too. When you get to see the men sitting outside of abortion clinics crying and begging, please don't kill my kid, then it gets to changing people's minds. So the parent connection, how it's understood, is for mothers, they have 9 months of maturity. They get, to grow their bellies. They get to change their food habits. They get sleepy. Pregnancy brain is a real thing, So they're getting drained of all their nutrients and resources. But for dads, that connection doesn't start until here. And if you can think about how many young men have been robbed of this, how many men don't know that this is possible, that this is absolutely necessary? How many moms don't know that this part is necessary? Do you know that there's a place in a man's brain that doesn't even open until he's taking care of a child that can't take care of themselves, that belongs to him? So, you ladies are like, when will you grow up? Give him a baby to take care of. I promise you, it will click really quickly. And so for dads, they get that skin-to-skin contact and that playtime. But that's what we do, is we get to tell them that. So those young dads that are stepping into and they're like, I don't know what to do. How do I? And then we say, hey, that's normal. Let me show you how you can be able to support mom, but also be able to support yourself to get better. So we say at Birthright, you get your values from mom, which is your attitude, your belief, your ethics, your morals. But you get your value from dad, which is your worth, your merit, and your importance. So if you leave home without either one of those, it's no wonder pornography, promiscuity, obesity, all of these things, violence, are out of control. Because if you left home and you didn't have someone that gave you value, and we all know you can only see your heavenly Father through the lens of your earthly one, and if he wasn't there or he wasn't any good, who's going to sign up for another one? So we bring dads together that suffer from all of these things. But it's not just those. We bring in all dads. Because again, as we talked about, you're 4 times more likely to be impoverished, 7 times more likely to be a teen pregnant. 63% of all suicides are from homeless, or from the fatherless. 90% of all homelessness. So all of these things that you hear in the news where people are talking about all these spokes, we're dealing with the hub. The hub is, if the fathers aren't in the homes and they don't know what their role is, they don't know how important and impactful their voice is, and they don't know that they're responsible. I mean, the Bible's very clear on what we're supposed to do daily. And I've tried that kissing challenge. It definitely does work. But I promise you, sitting there going 1, 2, 3, it's very helpful. My wife, her face, I was like, wow, this is for real. This is a thing. But these are the things that really trip me out. But you want to see something crazy? Because, we have a lot of feminists that fight and say, hey, women's rights and all that. And I'm a firm believer that, women are very valuable. But this number here about blew my mind, that not one feminist has ever said anything about 80% of all rape comes from fatherless homes. I said, you mean to tell me we could almost solve rape single-handedly by just making sure that dads know how valuable they are so they can give value to their daughters, give value to their sons, so that they're not opening their legs for just anyone, and they're not pursuing that because they have other things to do. So how we got started, I am a dad of 3 kids outside of marriage, 1 in. So I definitely know the difference. So what ended up happening was I had children outside of marriage. As I told you, I'm a recovering drug dealer. So I lived that life. I thought that my value came from the people that leached from me. So I had a bunch of people around me because I had money, I had alcohol, I had drugs, I had things that I didn't even participate in drugs and alcohol. But I just had them because that's what made people come around. You know what will take that away from you really quick? The U.S. government. When you pull into a parking lot downtown and you get attacked by the ATF, the FBI, the CIA, the ICE, the local police, I had I had all the alphabets. They were all there. They had AR-15s and they were like, get on the ground. I was like, who are you looking for? They had helicopters in the sky. I was like, there's no way you could possibly be here for me. You could have just called me and I would have came in. It's okay. So I'm sitting there and one of the U.S. Marshals says, hey, so it says on your card that you're a life coach. What would you tell yourself? I said, well, remember what they said about easy. There's no such thing. And I remember right after that moment, I looked to the sky and I said, all right, God, I hear you. And that was it. So I left my life of what it was. Of course, it didn't, take away the fact, like Saul, you don't get a free ride just because you decide to change your life. I still had to go to prison. So I went to federal prison and had to learn all the life lessons. While I was there, got into a little bit of a scrap with my cellie. He decided he wanted to beat me with a bat. And so that was fun. If you've ever seen anyone standing on top of you, swatting you with a full bat, and you get to look at them like this. And still to this day, I think that God put his hand over me to cover me like so. Because I felt nothing. And I watched them. And I thought to myself, I looked at my friends, and I said, man, y'all really ain't going to help me. And so I said, okay. Now, this is the mindset that you have to go into in an animalistic situation. I said, I guess I'm going to have to kill this dude. I can't not walk around and he be alive after he just done this to me. What am I supposed to do? So I decide, okay, I got to do something. And of course, he sees, to me, I think, still an angel. Because he starts backing up as if he's seen an angel. And he drops the bat and takes off running. So I then stand up, check myself, because I've seen people get hit with bats before. If you get broken, you don't want to try to take a walk and then, So I check, everything seems intact, and I start walking. And I said, all right, so I'm going to have to kill him. How does this work? Am I going to spend the rest of my life in prison? I hear a voice, and I says, stop. I told you, if you don't do what I said, you're going to die here. You're not here to make friends. And I said, now I know I didn't just say that. And I was like, okay. So I took a couple more steps. He says, now let it go and go to your room. Because if you don't do what I told you, you will die here. And I said, all right. But nobody ever told me that God sounds a lot like me. I just thought that was a conscience. I just thought that was a little belly, but I know I didn't say that. And so I went to my room, ended up going to the hole, having an encounter with Christ. And really, audibly being able to hear him speak twice to me while I was there. And I was super excited about that. So what that brought about was I said, okay, God, if I have to be here, if you wanted me here, what is the purpose? Obviously, I did the stupid thing, but what did you want me here for? He said, when else are you going to have 1,500 men to interview? And I said, okay. So I went around and I said, hey, tell me, what's your favorite part about being your father's son? Do you know, based on that answer, I could tell what their crime was? Because all of our fruit bared, so we ended up in the same place, so it was a controlled environment. So I was kind of cheating. But I still start my podcast to this day with that question, because that tells me everything I need to know. If Dad was there, but he wasn't really present, then that means you have a father wound that's different than if Father wasn't there at all. 9 times out of 10, if I asked you that question and your dad wasn't there at all, you would start with a barrage of cuss words to tell me how awful of a person he was. Not because of experience, but because that's what you were told. That's because that's what you were raised to believe. So, at Birthright, what we do is we focus on 4 different types of fathers. God gave us this vision while I was in prison and showed me why it's so important that the generations mix, that the races mix, that the experiences mix. Because if you're an experienced dad, that means you grew up with a father in the home. Doesn't mean that you had a wonderful, rosy situation. Just means you're used to having a dude around. You know what it's like to be, followed up with or corrected, as we like to call it. Then if you're abandoned, you're a father that didn't have a father. You had to rely on coaches, pastors, big brothers, uncles, people in the community to come in and try to help you out. Then you have your supervised dads. Now, these are the dads that are, experiencing divorce, that are going through hurdles to be able to see their kids. What most people don't know is that 1 in 3 children that are born are not born to the right father. 1 in 3 cases on child support are born not knowing who the actual father is. This is why Maury was able to make such a good living. You are not the father. It's a real thing. And so this is really great, because when we started a nonprofit in 2020, we had to use all these stock photos. These are all real photos of people that are in our actual program or that are connected to us. So all the pictures that you see here, these are real dads in real moments. So this is at Woodland Hills Mall when I was doing a supervised visit. And then we have our step-ups. Now the step-ups, this is really great, especially for you all in the room. This is those pastors, those elders that came alongside, those people in the community, the big brothers, the uncles, that have helped raise and nurture the next generation and help to pour into and help them to understand how they're supposed to work. Because this is what you have to remember. Because the boyfriend and girlfriend thing is how we express love today, which is really just putting a sex in front of friend, girl, friend, boy, friend, there's no commitment, there's nothing. So if we haven't committed, I'm definitely not moving your parents in. You're not moving my parents in either. But we will make lifelong decisions with no commitment. We will buy dogs, we will have kids, we'll buy houses, and we will not make the commitment to understand why this cycle works this way. So what happens is, like I said, our 2 most vulnerable populations, we have our 60 plus. They're being put in homes now. They're being set aside. They're saying, hey, you're not relevant. You're not necessary. Then you have the kids that are on the other side of the spectrum from 0 all the way up until 19. They're being told that they are not important. Let me put you in school, let the school raise you. Let me send you to a daycare, let the daycare raise you. I don't have time because I got to make money in this, because otherwise I'm going to be stuck on this end. And it all goes back to that marriage commitment. When people are not making that commitment, now this generation doesn't have an opportunity to impart wisdom and character and building their journey in this area. They don't get a chance to watch. The average age of a grandparent is 36. Does that not blow your mind? 36 years old. Whew. That trips me out. 36, I'm still working at 36. I'm 42. And I have friends that are grandparents. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't know anything, let alone to be trying to pass anything on. But we have kids raising kids because they think that's freedom. They think that that's the way to go. And we allow it because the church doesn't support families. We support single mothers. So we have to change that narrative. So what we're offering, we have fatherhood meetings. We'll have one tonight, as a matter of fact, in my office on 41st and Harvard. You're always welcome to come. So we have a curriculum that is certified that we go through, and it just helps dads with best practices. We're not prescriptive to say, hey, if you check these boxes, you will be a perfect dad. It doesn't work that way. Because you might be from Poland. You might be from, Broken Arrow. You might be from North Tulsa. All of you had very different experiences. So we have to get into relationship, which takes time, which takes effort, which says, hey, you are valuable enough for me to spend the one resource I cannot duplicate. And that is time. And so we do that by connecting biweekly with our Courageous meeting. And then we have a Father and Me legacy that we do once a month at the Tulsa Dream Center, where we have the dads bring their kids on. This is our podcast. You're always welcome to be there. It's available on all of our the streaming processes. We have park crawls. We have events where we're going out into the community to be able to help. You can bring your kids, your grandkids, your wives. We just want to be able to make sure that dads know how valuable they are. Because when they're valuable, how do you think they're going to treat their spouse? How do you think they're going to go to work and show up for their kids? How do you think that they're going to show up for this whole generation that is lost? This is why we need the city elders. This is why we're so excited to be able to work with you all, because when I sit and talk to Steve, I get a way different conversation than when I talk to somebody that's my age that thinks they know versus somebody that knows that they don't know everything. They can just tell you their journey, and I can say, man, thank you for allowing me to glean off of you for that moment. So we also have a prison program, because obviously I was there. And so it's a really good time to help guys refocus. What is really important to you? What really matters? What are you spending your time on? Why is it that everything matters so much when you're out? Oh man, I just want to work out while I'm in here. I want to go to school while I'm in here. I want to do this. I say, you could do that when you're outside, right? But the difference is they got bills to pay. The difference is when they need help, who can they go to? Do you guys know of any fatherhood organizations that help with bills, help with finances, help with attorney fees, help with basic needs and food without putting your face on there and saying, hey, this guy couldn't take care of his family, but we did it? There's only one that I know of, and that's us. So if you know of any dads that are needing anything, we would love to help. And again, we would love for some of you guys, and even ladies, to come and volunteer and be a part of it. Now, this is where we're headed one of these days, this 288,000 square feet. We want to be able to create a full-on fatherhood immersed factory, if you will. This is off of Highway 51. This is the old State Farm building. We want to make it to where when dads come in, they can be able to take marriage counseling. They can be able to get fatherhood counseling. They can take programming. They can spend time with their kids. They can do all sorts of things. We can have these meetings there. We can do all sorts of things just to make sure that dads know how valuable they are. They can learn to cook. They can learn to, do all sorts of things. But anyway, so we have opportunities. Like I said, if you have a skill, if you have knowledge in a thing, and you would love to impart that into the next generation, not necessarily saying that you have kids, or, they might not live close by, and you just want to come and learn and hear what the next generation is talking about, to see what they got going on. We meet, like I said, every second and fourth Thursday, and we have all the dads come in, all four types of dads. They, and they talk about what's going on in fatherhood today. And so, money is always good as well. But like I said, we do it through our park crawls, our Fatherhood Summit, our two programs, our podcast, and all of this is creating families' legacies. And so our end result is this. It's simple. The hearts of the fathers will turn to the children, and the hearts of the children will turn to the Father, lest I strike this land with utter destruction. So if you ever wonder and question, what happened? Why are we here? He said it. It's the last thing that God said that everyone heard. Last book, last verse, before Jesus came to make it new. So if you want to know how to be able to help marriages, how to help churches, how to help employees, how to help school, it's right there. Get the fathers back involved. If you've been a father, if you know a father, if you've had a father, come be a part. And you can always support us. You can find that on our website. But we thank you so much for allowing us to be here. If you have any questions, I'll have some brochures back there. But yes, we would love to have you, and such an honor to be here. Thank you guys so much.